All right, so we are going to talk about casting and getting random numbers today. So we're going to start out making a very creative class name here. So we're going to call it casting and random. And my source folder went away here, so I'm just going to go math and logic, src. And I want this thing to have a main method here, so casting and random have a main method. Finish that guy. All right, and then I'm going to close that so that we can just look at the code. All right, so casting is changing the type of a variable for one use. Okay, casting is done by putting the type that you want in parentheses in front of the variable that you want to change. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, let's just say that we have a double called average, and that's equal to, let's say, 73.719. All right, and then you have an int, let's call that num, and that's equal to 7. All right, and let's just say for some reason that I want to have an int called, let's say, score, let's call it sum, equal to average plus num. Okay? So, right now it won't let me do that. Okay? And the reason it won't let me do that is because average is a double. If I add an int onto a double, I still get a double. Alright? And I can't take this double that I have highlighted here and put it into an int. All right, because the types just don't match. We kind of talked about that the other day. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cast average to an int. All right, and what this does is it says, okay, well, just take the integer value of average. Well, what do you think the integer value of average is? 73, okay? So it doesn't round it. It does what we have called before truncate it. It just takes the whole number part and it just ignores all of this other decimal stuff. All right? So this value right here is going to be 73 plus num is 7. So this sum value should be 80. So let's just go ahead and print that out. Ugh. All right? So we're expecting that to be 80, but just to kind of show you that it doesn't change the variable, okay, we're going to print out average, and then I don't think we really need to print out num, but we should see this thing print out 80, and then we should see this thing print out 73.719. Okay, so it doesn't change the variable, it just says just use this value, the int value of this thing. Okay. Hopefully that's making a lot of sense to you already. So it turns out that we could also do like double score, okay, and let me just do it a little bit different here. So it turns out that we can also cast an int to a double. So if I have num and I want to make it a double for whatever reason, I can do that. All right. And so if I run that, okay, so here's my, let me just drop that right there. Okay, here's my sum, we said was 80, average is 73.719, and now num is an int, but if I cast it to a double, it becomes the value 7.0. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense for all you guys. And it turns out that you can also, like, you can cast a char into an int. You can cast For example, you can cast objects into different class types, but we won't really get into that until we need to. So for now, the only thing we need to know is that it's possible to cast number types into different number types. Okay, and we see how that works. All right, let's look at using Math.random. All right. So, Math.random gives me a number between 0 and 1. Returns a double in the range okay, so not many people have seen this way of talking about range. Okay, so the square bracket means inclusive, which means it includes that value. The paren means exclusive, which means it excludes that value. And so square bracket 0.0 comma 1.0 means any value including 0.0 I should say, up to but not including 1.0. So Math.random is going to give me some value from 0.0 up to 0.999999999. All right? So let's just go ahead and print out a call to Math.random. So first we have all the stuff that we had before. The double value of num is 7.0. This is giving me a random number 0.5986 blah blah blah. Okay? If I run it again, I get a different random number, 0.021 blah blah blah. Okay? So it's going to get something in between 0 and 1.0 every single time that I run this and every time that I get a new random number. All right? So what we would like to be able to do is find a random integer in some range. And just so that you guys kind of understand the idea here, we're going to talk about rolling a die for like a game. Okay, so when we roll a 6-sided die, we expect to get a number either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and we're going to do the calculations in here so that we can get that value. All right, so so this is how to get a random integer between two values. Okay. So the steps for doing this are step number 1. You got to identify your min and max values. Okay. Step number 2, you're going to calculate your range. And the range is equal to max minus min plus 1. Okay? And then step 3, we're going to actually do some Java programming here. Okay, so so then we're gonna take that value, math.random times range plus, I shouldn't say 1 plus min, okay, and we're gonna take that and we're gonna cast it to an int. So this is where we're gonna be leading to, but I want to kind of just build our way up to that, if you don't mind. Okay, So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this math.random from this print line and just kind of drop it down here. So this is just printing out a blank line for us. And then we're going to go ahead and say, we're going to use that in a second here. So we're going to go get a random roll die. Okay, so an integer between 1 and 6. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our random value. So let's go double random equals math.random. And then let's print that out. And what I'm trying to do is kind of show you guys incrementally how this thing works. Okay, so math.random, if I run this, it gives me this value 0.28 blah blah blah. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to find the range of my values that that I'm going to go between. So I'm between 1 and 6. So that's going to be 6 minus 1, which is 5. Then plus 1 from this formula. So I have a range of 6 values basically. So then in here, in the programming, what I'm going to do is go double random in range. And I'm kind of doing more than I need to here, but we're going to go ahead and say that that's going to be my random value times 6. Okay? And 6 is my range. So then I'm going to print that out. Alright, so last time I got a random value of 0.2 something. This time when I run it, okay, so again I got 0.2 something, alright, but I don't have a roll, right? I'm not going to roll a die and get a 0. Okay, but if I take that 0.2 something and I multiply it by 6, now I get 1.5 something. Okay, so hopefully that's making sense. So I'm getting a value that's closer to an actual die roll. All right. Then what I want to do is I want to I want to take my minimum number and add it on to that random times my range. So I'm going to go random in range plus min. It's kind of ridiculous, but here we go. So plus 1. 1 is the min. Let's print that out. And now I'm getting lazy here, so I'm just going to copy and paste that in there. Alright. So last time I got 0.2 and that ended up with a 1 there. This time when I'm running it, okay, I got 0.15, okay, 72 blah blah blah. When I multiply that by 6, I get 0.943 blah blah blah. When I add 1 to that, okay, so if you think about it, can't roll a 0, still can't roll a 0, but I can roll a 1. Okay, is that making sense for you guys so far? Okay, so this is like having a roll of 1. So the last thing that I want to do, now that I've found my random number, multiplied it by a range, and added the min to it, now I want to cast that number to an int, and that will give me my actual die roll. So this is my final random number equals random in range plus min casted to an int. I'm sorry. That should have been an int final random. Sorry, I made a change there. So this is int final random equals random in range plus min casted to an int. Oops. Cast. In this case, what the cast does is it gets rid of the decimals. Okay. All right, so in this case we got 0.92 blah 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 for my random value. If I multiply that by 6, I get 5.5 something. If I add 1 to that, I get 6.5 something, and my final roll then was a 6. Okay, if I run it again just to kind of show you guys a couple different examples here. Okay, this time I got 0.7 something. Multiply that by 6, I get 4 point. Add 1 to it, I get 5 point something. Cast it to an int, I get a roll of 5. Yes, because it's all random. So it should be random numbers that you're getting as well. Okay, so this time we're doing it again. Okay, I get 0.1 as my random number, multiplied by 6 is this. Add 1 to it, you get this. Cast it to an int, you get that. Okay? Now, this would be pretty frustrating if you had to do all of these steps every time. So what we want to do instead is we want to break it down into like one line of code like we see right here. Okay? So this is going to be final random right here. Let's go ahead and do that in one line of code here. And we're going to go int die roll equals int. So this is the casting of the value that's next to it. And we're going to go Math.random, okay, times 6 plus 1, and that's it. So that's doing all of these lines of code in one line of code. So take a look at that, make sure that that makes sense to you, okay. Okay, so in this example, final random again came out to be 5, but this example came out to be 1. Okay, so this is the math behind it. Random number times 6 plus 1 cast to an int. Here we're doing that all in one line of code. My random number times 6 plus 1, and then that value is casted to an int to give me my die roll. Alright, so what I would like you to do, okay, so this time I got 6. Run it again, this time I got 5. Okay, so that's going to give you some kind of random number. So what I would like you to do right now, just to kind of test your understanding of this, is find a random integer between 100 and 250. Okay, you guys go ahead and try to do that on your own. Write code that it's going to give you a random number between 100 and 250. Okay, and I'm just going to minimize that so that you guys have the steps up on the board as well. Steps 1, 2, and 3 at the top. Okay, if you already got started, that's great. If you need kind of a push in the right direction, step 1, we want to identify the min and the max. So what's my minimum number? 100. My maximum number is 250, okay? Step 2, we're trying to find the range. Okay, so range equals max minus min plus 1, or 250 minus 100 plus 1. Okay, and what is that value? 151. Okay, and then step 3 is to do the code. So we're going to go ahead and say our random example here is what? What am I going to type first? So before I do Math.random, I'm going to do the int cast. All right, And you could always go back and do that, so it's not like it's a big deal. Then I'm going to do Math.random. And what am I doing to Math.random? Times 151. And then I'm adding what? 100 onto that. Okay? So again, this is the range, this is the minimum number, and that should give me a random number between 100 and 250. So if I print that out, okay, so this time my random example is 144. Okay, my die roll was 4. If I run it again, and you guys should be getting different examples, 126, but I should always get a value that's between 100 and 250 here. Okay, 205 that time. All right.